welcome to BERNAMA today. You're joining us, Elaine, as well as Fabian on BNC BERNAMA News Channel, where it's all about you. Today's, of course, the week after Raya.
Yes, after Raya, and it is the 20th of June 2018. Of course, yesterday we had like interesting World Cup matches. We're going to go to that later on. But let's go to our news on the go. Before we go into that, if you're watching us on Astro 502, you can always catch us on KIP TV as well, or Unify TV right now it's called, channel 631, 121 on my TV, on all of our online profiles, on our Facebook, on YouTube. You can find us on BERNAMA News Channel. That's the name you find.
That's right. If you're on the go, the best way is to keep locked on to the web TV, which is on BERNAMA.com. That's the way for you to be able to catch us at any time.
Right.
And of course, as of Tuesday, actually yesterday 3 p.m, we have some updates in terms of our Tabung Harapan.
Correct. So Monday, I read about 74 million ringgit was collected. So as of Tuesday 3 p.m, that's the number you see on your screen. 88,365,000 35 and 7 cents as of Tuesday. Yeah.
And if you're still contributing, there's of course a Maybank account there for you to be able to contribute. Make sure that it's the correct account. I think there were some scams in the past. So that's the Maybank account number 566010626452. It looks like the funds are still pouring in. Malaysians are still coming forth to assist.
Yes, a lot of people are still doing it, right? Now, if you
want... apparently during the Raya Aidilfitri weekend, it was a bit slower in terms of the contribution. Everybody was...
Yeah, I want extra money to go do something else, right? But look, if you want to transfer online, do it instant. Because then the name pops out and you know that this is the correct account, right? Instant transfers.
Instant transfer, you see
the name. But if you do a gyro transfer, you wouldn't see the name.
Exactly.
Right.
And moving on, of course, to football updates. Fabian will take you through this.
Right, Russia all but qualify. Now, I don't really like this particular piece of news because there is a chance, though it's very slim, that tonight Saudi Arabia will actually win against Uruguay. But here it is. Egypt lost to Russia 3-1-3. Russia has taken the lead now. All 6 points belongs to them, and they've scored total of 8 goals right now in their Group A matches.
So it looks like they are in good state to be able to make it to the next round. They have already won 2 games. Uruguay is playing tonight against Saudi Arabia.
Yes, that's right.
So if they win, Russia and Uruguay will actually make it to the next round.
That's right. But there is a slim chance, here's football, there's a slim chance that Saudi Arabia might win, though a lot of critics say no, they won't.
In sports, you can never be too sure.
Yeah, you can never be too sure, that's right. Japan beat Colombia 2-1. The Japanese won because of a penalty. Let's just be very frank. Colombia got a red card on the 4th minute. The defender got a red card. Japan took the opportunity, scored. They equalized halftime, but right after that, Japan scored again because Colombia was playing with 10 men only.
And that's what you say about the unpredictability of football. There you go, Japan beating Colombia. And this was the first time Japan had won a World Cup game on European soil. And the first time they had beaten a side from South America at the tournament. So there you go. Tails can turn.
Bear in mind, the Japanese are the strongest team from Asia. Just bear in mind about that, okay? All right, now, third, we're still on Japan. We're speaking about the Osaka earthquake.
That's right.
The Malaysian Airlines will actually allow its passengers to postpone its flight from June 19th to June 30th. Anyone flying from there to Osaka or Kansai Airport, to be exact, will be able to postpone. All they need to do is contact Masters Call Center 1300-88-3000 in Malaysia. If they are outside of Malaysia, 03-7843-3000. They can actually change their flight, and this is due to the quake that hit Osaka.
That's right. You can see in the visuals here some of the aftermath in terms of what happened, and also you saw the cameras shaking earlier when the quake hit. So if you have any flights that you have planned during this period, you're able to make the necessary rearrangements at this point of time.
We're going to go into the story deeper later on, but before that, let's go on to our local stories. Lim Guan Eng, actually, our finance minister, said that GE14 pledges may be delayed, and this is the reason because he said that there are a lot of things that are happening within the government, change a new government, a new person coming in, and there are a lot of getting used to and getting adapting.
I'm sure a lot of the pledges that they made in good faith, and with looking at the current situation, they had to reevaluate what is possible, what is priority, and what is next. And based on this situation, the last announcement of our country's debt of surpassing 1 trillion has required them to relook at what are the priorities for them to focus on first.
Right. So he is actually saying this because this included the Young Entrepreneurs Empowerment Fund, which actually was one of the promises of Pakatan's GE14 manifesto. Now, the reason why this is out here is because a lot of young entrepreneurs, even myself included, are sidelined by banks and financial institutions. So the only people that could be able to help entrepreneurs like us would be government's funds.
Right.
Not only government grants or funds whatsoever, but people like like them were out there to actually give financial assistance, because banks will always rate you on their risk versus reward, right?
But this is where they want to spur the economy with this entrepreneurial funds and making it available. But they continue to say that they remain committed to implementing the promises in the manifesto. It's just that it may be delayed due to the financial situation at this point of time. So he says that they have managed to sort out the financial situation, even with abolishing the Goods and Services Tax, GST, which raised a lot of questions of how they're going to manage.
Manage the fund, but all prices is still high, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, move on to next. I'm sure you're on Facebook, and if you are, or WhatsApp, you've actually heard this Nipah virus thing going around.
That's right.
Now, to debunk this, the Health Ministry actually says that, hey, it's not true, and it says that if it's true, it's coming from them. All right.
Okay.
Now,
so the WhatsApp message has actually linked a Nipah virus to food wrapped in banana leaf, and the Health Ministry says that this is not true. Selangor State Health Director Dr. Khalid Ibrahim said the ministry had conducted an investigation and found that there was no patient admitted to any hospitals with such a case, and even at district health offices, state health departments, and ministries, they were not notified of any case involving any disease or incidents of food poisoning suspected to be caused by the use of banana leaf or suspected of being infected with the Nipah virus. So this is just to set the record straight.
Yeah, exactly. But I know one thing for sure is that banana leaves are not clean. Look at the way they transport from point A to point B. I understand it's not clean. So as food traders or people that actually manufactures food, I hope that you actually clean the banana leaves properly before you actually serve it to the people, because virus and bacteria can get caused. I saw actually a lorry pulling the banana leaf trees or banana leaves and the banana trees across the road, so it goes throughout the pavement, mud, soil, water. I don't know whether they actually washed it properly or not, but what I'm trying to say is, as a food operator or the person that is preparing food for the person consuming, please keep your premise clean.
So, which, of course, I think in light of what happened in the last couple of weeks with a lot of closures, Raj Banana Leaf was affected. It's all about hygiene. It's not about, what you're using, but your hygiene practices within your premises.
That's right. Well, next story, we'll be talking about the oldest known Sumatran orangutan dies in Australia. So the world's oldest orangutan, which has 11 kids and 54 descendants,
spread across the globe.
Okay, has died at 62, quite old, yeah.
That's right. And she, this is a female orangutan. Her name was Puan, or Indonesian, of course, for lady, and of course locally as well. Died on Monday at the Perth Zoo. As you can see, that's visuals of her earlier, and where she had been living since being gifted by Malaysia in 1968 to Australia.
Right.
And of course, the World Wildlife Fund has noted that there are only 14,600 Sumatran orangutans in the world.
Let's try to...
Now one less.
Exactly. Now, let's try to keep this their habitats alive, and also let's try to,
Recently, I saw a picture that was posted, I think it went viral as well, of the picture of timber logging affecting an orangutan. An orangutan was standing sort of like trying to protect his natural habitat.
I don't think orangutan was only affected. Even the orang aslis are infected. The indigenous people, their land's been taken from them. I heard the story this morning on radio as well. Now, before we do that, before we go into more detail, because I think we should get into more detail, there's a ministry about that coming up as well, right? Ministry for Orang Asli. Anyways, we wait for the story in the news. 9 napped over World Cup betting.
Of course, this is going to be World Cup season.
Let's go.
Now, Johor police have detained 9 individuals, including a woman, for allegedly being involved in illegal betting between 100,000 to 200,000 ringgit over FIFA World Cup matches. The suspects have been nabbed. They're aged between 17 and 58 in the operation dubbed Ops Soga in 3 raids from last Thursday until yesterday.
So yeah, basically online betting is going on.
That's right. There are the websites that they can bet. Apparently, these were placed via MS88PO.
No, basically all these are controlled by one or two biggest bet bookies in the world. Everyone knows those bookies. They're sponsored everywhere. EPLs, watch World Cup, you know them, right? Let's just put this to rest, okay? Right, we're gonna take a short break. When we come back, we've got Dr. O San. He'll be coming in to talk to Elaine. He'll be talking about Malaysia Baru, right?
We're talking about Look East policy, the recently
East
announced
policy,
by
China.
Prime Minister. Look East lah.
Right, okay.
Stay tuned. We'll be right back. Hello and welcome back on BERNAMA Today. You're still with me, Elaine Obla, and you're on BNC BERNAMA News Channel, where it's all about you. And in this segment, we'll be speaking to our political analyst, Dr. O San. And today, we are looking at the Look East policy, as we mentioned earlier before we went on break. So Prime Minister Tun Dr. Mahathir Mohamad has announced that Malaysia is renewing, or to be more precise, upgrading the Look East policy he adopted as a foreign policy almost 30 years ago. So the Star actually came up with a great article talking about the Look East policy, and I'm joined of course by Dr. O San to help us understand a little bit better our wanting to look east again as re-envisioned by Tun. Hello, welcome to the show. Doctor, tell us what your thoughts are on this.
Well, I think more than 30 years ago, Dr. Mahathir first proposed the Look East policy. I think there were actually 2 components to it. The more important ones, at least in Dr. Mahathir's mind, was actually to learn more about the value system, sort of the work ethics of various more successful Asian countries, such as Japan, at that time South Korea, and so on. And also, of course, it is also a policy of attracting more investments from these countries, about setting up factories, about creating jobs, about technology transfer. So now that Dr. Mahathir is once again our Prime Minister, I think he's very keen to sort of rekindle this so-called Look East policy, and maybe, as he said, upgrade it a little bit, because of course over the past 20-30 years, technology has progressed, people's way of thinking have changed, and so on. So I think now we are more talking about, or the emphasis is more on technology transfer, number 1, and number 2, of course, still Dr. Mahathir places a lot of importance on this work ethics and value system.
And we have had a long relationship with the East, especially Japan specifically, almost 60 years. Even in China, we're all large trading partners with all these countries. But what are the major differences between this policy in 1982 and now? Perhaps you can walk us through some of the milestones from the first onset.
In 1982, Malaysia is still very much a commodity exporting country. You may still remember we used to export like tin and rubber and so on. We learned in geography textbook, right?
Yes, correct.
But you see, over this Look East policy period of about 20 years or so, we have progressed from a more or less an agricultural country to a more or less industrialized country. Nowadays, our main export is actually electronic components. Our iPhones and various other computer equipments. We are also part of the production chain and so on. But of course, nowadays, we were afraid that we might be trapped in what we call a middle income trap, that we would never actually progress to become a high income, a more advanced country. Again, as Dr. Mahathir envisioned the Vision 2020, for example. So I think in Dr. Mahathir's mind, there's a need, for example, to boost up our work ethics so that our productivity can be increased on the one hand, and also, for example, last time there was this the Proton National Car Project, right? Dr. Mahathir was also exploring the idea of maybe even reviving another a national car project. Not so much because we want to produce cars. I think it's mainly because we want to try to take this opportunity to get some of the latest technology.
So that's where we're looking at right now in terms of renewing saying that relationship with regards to technology with a lot of these countries, which seem to have leapfrogged, a lot of even the Western world with technology. But in terms of the Look East policy, back then in '82 when it was first announced, how serious were we in actually following through with the Look East policy?
Oh, we were quite serious, right? I mean, we had the National Car Project. We actually progressed from agriculture to an industrialized country. But now, what next? I think it's at the back of everybody's mind. We try, for example, to go into the IT industry. I mean, we have Cyberjaya and so on. But frankly speaking, it was met with a sort of lukewarm response. So now I think the new administration, they're looking at the sort of multi-pronged approach. There's the Look East policy. There's also an invitation for Mr. Jack Ma, Alibaba, and so on, to try to once again put us in the number one production chain, and number two, the market chain for this huge market in China, in Japan, and so on.
I do agree with your initial thoughts when you did mention that in terms of the Prime Minister's direction, it's about adopting these values that are very crucial and actually very beneficial. How far has this actually trickled down to the people in terms of actually adopting these kinds of work ethics? I think we are still very far behind.
That's right. Well, I think very frankly speaking, I think we adopted a lot of the more superficial levels of these work ethics. Sometimes you see in companies or government departments in the morning, you have this huge exercise and so on. But as far as, for example, the really hardworking, and as Dr. Matthew said, the sense of shame and so on. If we did not perfect certain things, even punctuality.
Yes.
So all these things are still values which we are yet to totally inculcate in our local culture.
So what do you think needs to change in terms of for us to be able to actually adopt those cultures? We are renewing that Look East policy. That has not succeeded in transferring down in the real level.
I think it's a sense of urgency which is what we are sorely lacking. We have this, well, for lack of a better word, the so-called tidak apa attitude, that things would actually go quite smoothly for us. So you see, when this new government came in, they revealed that we have actually quite a high level of debt, national debt, and so on, and they put together this tabung harapan for people to donate money. I think that actually is beyond like donating money, because the small amount of money collected, it's very difficult to pay off our debts. Right? It's more like giving us a sense of participation in our collective national effort. It's more like inculcating a sense of urgency that this country, if we don't develop it well, it can actually go bankrupt if we just sort of still go on with this tidak apa attitude.
Even though we have so much resources, a lot of it has seemed to be squandered. What are your personal thoughts on tabung harapan itself? Do you think it's beneficial? Do you think it's something that,
well, it is certainly something which allows the normal people even, I mean, you can donate whatever amount you want, $10, 10 ringgit, and so on.
Even 1 ringgit, right?
Yeah. It's not enough, obviously, to pay off our 1 trillion ringgit debt, but it's a way for people to participate in this great national effort. Again, to inculcate this sense of urgency that individual level and national level collectively, if we don't work hard, then we are going to be left behind.
That's right. Now let's move on. Let's zoom into all that has taken place in terms of projects and initiatives with, for example, China. And our relations strained at this point. What happens now? Because we're really looking at some of the projects that have been put in place.
I don't think our relationship is actually strained at the moment, because Malaysia-China's trading volume is humongous. It's largest among the ASEAN countries, for example. I think what we are looking at now is sort of redefinition of what investment is all about. Traditionally, during Dr. Mahathir's first administration, for example, investment would mean, for example, foreign countries setting up factories here, creating jobs and so on. But China, their own developmental experience is such that you need to lay all this infrastructure first, the railroads, the ports, and the highways, and so on. Then people would come in and do business. That's their developmental experience. and they thought that I think they could share that with us. But still, I think we are more accustomed to, or we prefer the sort of traditional way of investment: set up more factories, transfer the technology, create jobs for the locals. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I think the question is a lot of, in terms of either analysts or even in the media, there's been a lot of speculation about, you know, potentially souring those relations. So what are your thoughts on this?
I think
perhaps because of that first visit from Prime Minister to Japan.
That's right. But of course, immediately you saw over the past few days, Mr. Jack Ma, or in Chinese Ma Yun, he's coming to Malaysia, and well, I mean, to be blunt about it, he's welcome as much as he was welcome before, right?
Yes.
That shows that if it were the right kind of investment, at least in this new government's point of view, well, you are totally welcome, and sometimes the level of welcome towards you is even more than before. So I think Dr. Mahathir came into power again with a very defined and refined sense of what is meant by investment. Namely, you really create opportunities, either business or employment for the local populations.
I think maybe perhaps there was a lot of questions, especially with former Finance Minister Tun Daim Zaiden, who also said that Malaysia will carefully handle business contracts with China made by the previous administrations. What do you think he means by this?
I think the emphasis is on previous administration. I think in the new administration's point of view, there were a lot of contracts made by the previous administration with China, as well as with other parties, such as some from the Middle East and so on, which are, shall we say, politely questionable.
Right. It seems to be maybe biased or maybe less beneficial in some terms.
That number one, it could be less beneficial, but it's also sometimes you know, borrowing a huge sum of monies, and that big sum of money is not actually being used to build some infrastructure, but actually squander away or somehow transfer somewhere else.
Right. So that's what's questionable at this point of time. So now let's digress a little bit. What is the situation with our bilateral relations and FDIs with Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think Saudi Arabia always enjoy a very special relationship with Malaysia because there's a religious dimension to it. Over the years, Saudi investment in Malaysia, I think there were some petroleum refining facilities, but not much beyond that. So I think what you're referring to is some sort of investigations going on, which involve some Middle East elements and so on. I don't think those investigations per se will actually affect our bilateral relations. If anything, if all these things are clarified, I think it will be actually even stronger.
Now, fantastic. Now, in closing, what are your hopes and vision for this new Look East policy that has been recently announced? What do you hope to be able to see?
Well, I actually hope that there could be more, for example, educational exchanges. More of our students could go to, well, nowadays I think it includes China, Japan, South Korea, and so on, so that indeed we can learn more of their work ethics and also some of their more advanced technology.
Now, we look forward to that. We hope that, you know, there'll be a transfer of not just technology, but values and culture for us to be able to be on par globally as well. Thank you so much, Dr. Oh, for that analysis. That's all the time that we have on this segment. Thanks for staying with us. We'll take a short breather right now. We'll be back shortly. Bye for now.
Welcome to Wednesday's edition of BERNAMA Today. It is the 20th of June 2018. Fabian Aziz and Eleno Abdullah with you on the show. Thank you for staying with us, and we are here to bring you updates about some Malaysian stories and, of course, a very interesting interview later on today.
That's right. If you're just joining us on Astro 502, you can catch us on several other platforms as well. 631 on Unified TV, 121 on My TV. And if you're on the go, Web TV is the best way for you to keep abreast, which is on bernama.com. But we quickly move on to some quick updates from earlier. We spoke about how Tabung Harapan has grown in size. It may be slow during the Aidilfitri celebrations. I know everybody's sort of just getting back into the groove, but it has racked up 88,365,035.07 to be precise as of 3 p.m. yesterday. I'm sure it's growing as we speak.
And the Maybank account number is below. If you want to donate, you can use that number to donate as well. So, second point we're going to talk about is Russia all but qualify for knockout stage with win over Mo Salah's Egypt 3-1. So
That's
yesterday they actually won 3-1. Meanwhile, Japan beat Colombia 2-1.
Exactly. So as you mentioned earlier on, when we talk about football, anything can happen. Even
That's
though
right.
tonight's game is going to be Uruguay versus Saudi Arabia.
Correct. Anything can happen.
Even though Uruguay is the favorite to take the
Portugal,
the
Morocco,
win.
yes, anything can happen. Or Spain, Spain's game as well. Anything can happen. We do not know.
Apparently,
And
this was the first time Japan has actually won
Won.
on European soil
Yes.
versus a South American counterpart on that note.
right.
But-
On another note, speaking about Japan, we talk about the Osaka earthquake where at least 4 people were killed and hundreds more injured. The good Malaysian Airlines actually came and say that they will allow passengers traveling to Japan, particularly the Kansai airport, to postpone their travel dates if they're traveling between the 19th to the 30th of June, and they can just call the service center 1300-883-3000, or if they are outside of Malaysia, 03-7843-3000. And as we can see the visuals that you can see, camera shaking, 6.1 Richter scale earthquake in Osaka.
So worry not, if you have booked your flights and you have made plans, you can make the necessary adjustments as allowed by MAS. But
Right,
let's quickly talk about some...
Just to note, I know we are 24 hours news channel. What you saw earlier is not breaking news, but it was footage from yesterday. Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Now we have some dailies that we have in terms of the front page. Let's cover some of that. Few very interesting stories, of course.
That's right.
Yesterday, we of course had the chosen one. This is talking about the Menteri Besar of Selangor
Right.
that has been recently appointed. Let's take a look at that.
Star newspaper, it says that the chosen one, and
He's of course Sungai Tua Assemblyman Amiruddin Syari, who is now the Selangor Menteri Besar. He of course succeeds Dato' Azmin Ali, who is now the Economics Minister.
right, that's right. So that's the Star newspaper today.
And I'm sure everybody's just Googling who Amiruddin Syari
Yeah,
is.
me too.
And then, reading about what his background is.
And there's some guy saying that this guy's from Johor. How come he's not anak jati Selangor? So what?
It doesn't
Right.
matter. At the end of the day, I look forward to the policies that implement good administration,
Exactly.
having good leadership as well.
And Elaine has a New Straits Times story. It says, building an almost perfect case. Yes, Tun's face.
That's right.
Right there. And he said that there will be a case building up against our ex-Prime Minister, Dato' Sri Najib Razak, including the abuse of power, embezzlement and bribery with government money in connection with the 1MDB scandal.
And of course, it also says that arrests are within months and trials will hopefully start by year end. That's
Right.
what's stated here.
Just by the site, they have Ram Kapal's face, enough evidence to reopen Altan Tuya's case.
That's right. So that was a lot of news that happened yesterday with, this new Selangor MB, updates on the 1MDB charges, as well as opening of the Altan Tunyambada case as well.
So, okay, on the Utusan Malaysia, we have the same story as New Straits Times Caring, which is the inauguration, the appointment of Amiruddin as Selangor MB, which is this one. And then on the side here, side note,
There was an interesting one where it says Anwar tegur Guan Eng. What he says here in quotes is Menteri Kewangan ini statusnya itu lebih sensitif. Kenyataannya itu terus merujuk kepada pelabur. Oleh demikian ia perlulah lebih berhati-hati. So Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim is just mentioning that the finance minister needs to be more sensitive with regards to investment.
Right. Basically, what he's trying to say is that it's a lead up to the next story actually that I'm trying to talk about. What Dato' Sri Anwar is trying to say is basically this. Okay, he's trying to say that the finance minister should be careful with his words because it may attract all shy away investors should they actually want to invest in Malaysia. That's what the story is trying to say. But then again,
now at the end of the day, for us, I think as Malaysians, the reason the general election resulted in the new Pakatan Harapan win was to encourage transparency. And as long as transparency is maintained and integrity is maintained, I think we're on a good track.
Right, sticking to the finance part still, if you can zoom in on this story, this is from Focus Malaysia, the edition of 16th to the 22nd of June. On page 4, you can actually see this particular story. Trade carefully when reforming GLCs. Now, this is actually a story from them, and this is okay, this story was debated on radio as well this morning, but we are going to read it up to you. It basically says that GLCs, as we all know, they've been changing heads and department heads and all those kind of things, right? So this writer actually says, hey, you should be very careful with who you pick next, so you don't actually end up the same situation 5 to 10 years from now.
Right. Essentially, if I were to summarize that article, it's just saying that don't just change for the sake of changing.
Political affiliations.
Don't fix what's not broken.
Correct.
Essentially, if they are doing a good job, let them continue doing a good job. Don't just use this opportunity to place your personal favorites,
Interests or favorites.
and have your interests in place, as opposed to allowing them to be able to continue to make the best happen for the GLCs.
Or the best person that's chosen for the job.
And also, they were talking about salaries in terms of GLC salaries versus civil servants. And the article was saying that they should be comparable to the private sector versus the civil service in order for them to be able to do a good job
Competitive,
and
good
hopefully not create a brain drain in the process.
Right. We have one more minute. We run through the newspapers you have, Elaine.
That's right.
Berita Harian actually says that.
It's still the same story as
Okay.
what is NST about
Okay.
building the perfect case
Same
for
company.
1MDB,
Yeah.
and also the Altan Tunya story.
Okay.
And of course, we're talking about the Japan-Colombia
Right.
upset.
Let's talk a little bit about the accident case. Three dead, while 4 other injured in an accident in Gua Musang. And also a small girl actually died, was stabbed 30 times by her own cousin.
How? Okay, I'm speechless. 30 times being stabbed. I don't know where we are.
Yeah, I know. Just something to share with you before we go for a break. There was a video that was actually shared on social media as well. That shows E&O Hotel in Penang actually suffers high waves. This is, I do not know whether this is in connection with the Japanese earthquake or not.
Right.
But I don't know whether we're on the same planet. I'm no geologist. I'm no whatsoever. But it's like the other corner of the world. Like how?
Speaking of earthquakes and World Cup, I remember. I think it was was it in Peru? I know in South America,
Okay.
the cheers of the fans actually created sort of like earth moving that it's detected on quake measurements.
No way.
No,
Alright.
seriously.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll be speaking to Raymond Gillen, who is the CEO and also co-founder of Easy Haul. Now, we have a lot of logistics service providers here in Malaysia, but what makes them different? Stay tuned to find out more after this break. Thank you for staying with us here on BERNAMA News Channel. I'm Fabian Assis. You are watching BERNAMA today. With me, a very special guest. His name is Raymond Gillen, the CEO and co-founder of Easy Haul. Thank you for spending your time with me here today and to share with us a little bit about your company and how you're going to use technology to revolutionize the logistics industry. Now, we all know IoT is a very big word. It's Internet of Things. It includes like AI and big data. But right now, it's going to be used for the logistics industry. As we know, transportation industry has been the biggest and always the ones that's moving us all forward. Fuel prices affected by it, goods and services, things that you eat, you shop, you do, whatever you do with it, there needs to be some sort of transportation, bringing it from A to B to you at home, right?
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about IoT. And we all know haulage and trucking services has been there since the starting ages of lorries, and I would say not only lorries, but starting ages of transportation. When you can move from point A to point B, we've always been delivering stuff from horses right up to wheels today. Maybe you can share with me a little bit, how can IoT actually increase the efficiency of this industry?
Right. So if you look at the transportation industry, it's a very conservative traditional industry to start with.
Right.
And one of the issues that we're seeing in this industry is that with the fact that there's not a lot of adoption of technology yet, is that transportation for clients is often a little bit of a black box.
Okay.
Right. So I order my truck,
Right.
and then I just wait for it to show up.
Right.
I don't really know when it shows up and how it shows up.
Where it is.
And where it is and
Yeah.
who's going to show up.
Correct.
Right? And so that is a big pain point for clients.
Right.
Because you may have heard of that saying that, you know, a client is waiting for the transporter to arrive. They call the company.
The company and the company.
Where's my truck? And then they say 5 minutes, and then 1 hour later the truck still hasn't arrived.
Exactly.
So this is where IoT plays a key role in creating visibility in the whole supply chain.
Right.
It allows you essentially to track the asset and understand how long it's going to take for your truck to arrive at your doorstep.
All right. So how are you different from companies like, the big boys? I would say the DHLs, the FedEx, and these guys. How are you different from them?
Right. So a lot of these larger players, they have their own assets. So we are strictly a non-asset-based player.
Right.
And we focus heavily on the technology.
Okay.
So I think because we're a young, small, dynamic company, we are able to be a lot more agile than a lot of the larger guys out there, because we can adopt the latest technology and very quickly implement it and adopt it in business models that add value for our clients.
And how is this, any challenges that you're facing right now? Because being small company, you've definitely been buried by big boys. I'm sure if they known of your existence, they would do something about it. So what are your biggest challenges in this industry?
Well, maybe to say one thing off the start, actually, some of these big guys are actually our clients.
Right.
So it's very interesting that they basically use our services and our technology to help them basically service their clients.
Right. So you're saying that they are actually getting in touch with you, so you can get in touch with the smaller guys to actually assist them in their bigger business.
That's right. That's right. They use our platform essentially for sourcing transportation capacity in the market, and they use our technology to provide visibility for their clients.
I see. So what are the technologies that you have patented that's in-house to you right now?
Well, so we use a host of technologies. So first of all, it's a web-based platform which allows our clients to it's cloud-based, yes. Which basically, as long as you have an internet connection, it will work. Right. Which allows our clients to make bookings, to see what's happening with their shipments. They get full transparency. They basically see the truck moving on the screen. But also mobile technology, which is being deployed with the drivers that drive on our platform.
Do you use RFID instead of? I mean, you're obviously using GPS, cheapest and easiest to be obtained. Right. How about RFID? Have you thought about that? Things,
So we're looking into new technologies. We've looked at RFID. It's typically a technology that was very popular about 10 years ago.
Exactly.
And really, it's sort of the enthusiasm has tapered off a bit, I would say. It's relatively expensive to implement, even though these chips per piece, they don't cost a lot. It's still, if you add it up as a total part of your total supply chain cost, you see that a lot of clients that would typically be using this decided not to. I mean, the best application for RFID is probably in the retail
segment, right?
Yeah.
Where they have a small control space, am I right?
Right.
Okay, you see, trucks, planes, ships has always been emitting CO2 to the atmosphere. And you know that in the world, we're trying to be green in this world. We're trying to reduce that more and more. That's why the transportation manufacturers, I would say, are changing them to electric. Now, with this change, right, how do you see yourself handling these green initiatives?
Right. Well, first of all, let's start where we are today. At the moment, there's no driverless cars or even trucks on the road in Malaysia, right? These are initiatives that you see in the US, but my personal opinion is it's going to take several years before we see anything tangible here on the road on a scale that will actually impact, right? What we do though on a daily basis is that with our technology we are able to optimize the utilization of trucks, which means that we essentially reduce the amount of empty trucks on the road. Now that has a very direct impact on, for instance, the emissions of these trucks, but also congestion on the road, for instance.
I'm just wondering, is there a shared truck kind of thing going on with you guys?
So one of our services is that when a truck, for instance, is half full, right, and we know where this truck is and how full it is, at that point in time, when there is another client that has a shipment on a similar route as where the truck is traveling, then we have that opportunity to co-load. So you could call that a shared type
kind of service, right? Because I always think that, we travel on a daily basis. We had 10, 20 flights a day to certain states, and especially to the east of Malaysia. transportation is huge. Transporting people from point A to point B.
Right.
Planes are not always full,
Right.
and they don't really make money from passenger sittings, right? Because they are low cost. So I'm just wondering, how do you integrate yourself with partners like that? Do you talk to them, or do they just fly with the empty fuel, the empty?
So our focus has really been on road freight thus far.
Okay,
So
okay.
we do not focus on air and ocean
For
freight
now.
yet. For now, yes.
Okay, and apparently the transport ministry is trying to revamp the transport ministry itself, right? They're trying to make it more vibrant and better. How do you see yourself being in line with them? Yes.
Well, so we are actively working with associations and with governments because,
Okay.
as I said, I mean, the platform that we've developed has a value proposition that benefits, on the one hand, the shippers,
Right.
so commercial companies that have commercial cargo to move, the transport companies, but also there is an environmental and economical impact. And so again, that probably comes back to a better utilization of these trucks, reducing empty trucks on the road. Basically contributing to reduction of congestion.
Right.
But also what we're trying to do is help the transport industry as a whole to become more competitive, if you will.
Right. I'm just wondering, right? You're from the US. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? You're from the US,
I'm
right?
from the Netherlands.
Netherlands.
Yes.
I'm so sorry, but because you mentioned that you have some experience in the US or something
Right.
earlier on when we were having a chat. Now, based on what you see outside of here, what are we lacking of, and what do you think that you can bring in from the knowledge and ideas from outside to here?
Right. So one of the things I notice in the Malaysian logistics space,
Right.
particularly on the road transportation space, is that if you compare it to some of the practices that we see in Europe or the US, it's probably there's a little bit of room for improvement.
Okay.
And so what we're doing is through the technology that we've developed, we're helping transport companies to become more competitive. Because if you are a transport company and we can help you to better utilize your assets, it means you become more profitable.
That's right.
And
Obviously.
that will help you to invest in new assets, newer trucks, cleaner trucks, helps you to invest in other technologies. And so that is how we're positioning ourselves to help the industry.
Right. Where do you see yourself? I mean, how long have you been here? And I mean, Easy Hall to be exact.
Right.
How long has Easy Hall been around? And where do you see yourselves in the next 2, maybe 5 years?
Right. So we basically around for 2 years. So we started the operations in 2016.
Okay.
And so we've just opened up in Thailand.
Oh,
So
okay,
we're now operating in Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand.
Okay.
And later this year we're going to go to India.
Oh.
So we have quite aggressive international expansion plans. And so in 5 years from now, our vision is to be a leading platform here in the region. Basically being based and operating in most of the countries in Southeast Asia.
Right. And then you see us as the most viable option to start off first.
Well,
than other countries.
Well, look, Malaysia has been
Right.
a very conscious choice for us to.
Why of all the other countries, right?
Right.
With Thailand is 68 million people.
Right.
You come to a
right.
country that's 32 million. Something's
Right,
wrong with you.
right.
Well, tell me the logic.
look,
we have a minute.
Yeah. No, so the market here is not the biggest, so that's true. But I think the infrastructure here in Malaysia is out of all the Southeast Asia countries, with the exception of Singapore, is probably best developed.
Right.
And the adoption to technology, right? For us to work with the drivers, they need to be able to.
I agree with you.
So,
I agree with you on that point
Yeah.
because we are one of the best. I mean, Malaysia takes up one of the best adoption rates in terms of using IT infrastructure, being friendly with the mobile and also computer PCs and also websites.
Right.
Now, thank you very much, Raymond, for coming here to share with us about your company, about your vision, and how you can help us better our logistics industry. I wish you all the best together with your team to be connecting us ASEAN together as well. Hopefully not only road, but ship, our water and maybe airway will come into play one of these days. Are those things in plan?
Well, look, if everything goes according to plan, that would be something that we can look at. Yeah,
Right. So before we go, how can we, go do you have a website? I'm sure you have a website,
Yes,
right? Yeah.
yes.
Maybe you can share with us.
Yeah, it's easyall.com.
Okay.
So EZYHAUL.com.
Okay, so EZYHAUL.com for you to maybe get to know the industry a little bit more. Or, well, I don't know, probably try it out, because they have their small services from the smallest van, if I'm not mistaken, right up to a 40-footer truck. All that. All right. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much for watching Wednesday's edition of BERNAMA Today. Stay tuned. We got the news updates right here on BERNAMA News Channel.